Artificial intelligence robots have arrived to kill us all and wear our skin like the Edgar suit in the movie Men in Black. Well, not really, but it could have possibly infiltrated the Pokemon illustration contest for 2024, or so it seems. Over the last few days, all across the entire social media landscape, there's been a number of people raising red flags about some of these specific artworks that have been submitted, specifically calling out at least 6 images as being partially or entirely AI generated. Now, we are about to break these images down in detail to see what specifically about them is raising these red flags and making people think that they're almost definitely generated by AI. You might be thinking, who is this Pokemon YouTuber and what could he possibly know about AI artwork? Well, in my personal life, outside of Pokemon, as a creative design director with over 15 years, I have plenty of firsthand experience dealing with AI since it has arrived on the scene, especially the more popular text-to-image generators that you're probably used to hearing about, like Midjourney or DALL-E or Leonardo.ai, places where you can enter a prompt like Eevee prancing joyfully down a serene forest trail with crisp morning dew in the air in the style of anime. Press enter and get results like this, or this, or even this. Now, I'm not here to start shouting burn the witch at this artist or to even say that AI is inherently evil, but just give it a few years. I can't stress enough the fact that this person submitted this many images that made it through to the top 300. So of the 10,000 plus images that were submitted overall, how many more of them didn't make the top 300? That's insane to even think about. If any of these claims are true, then this person submitted under almost an identical name repeatedly over and over again. And even more concerning, how did these make it through Pokemon's screening process? Could have taken these 6 spots from actual artists who make great artwork or face legal issues by breaking the terms and conditions of the contest itself. Even bigger legal issues by breaching the terms and conditions on the platforms they use to generate the images as far as their rules on publishing and royalties are concerned. I can't even imagine the drama in the Pokemon community if this person actually went on to win the grand prize of $5,000 and have this AI-generated artwork printed on a promo card that lives permanently in the history of Pokemon. 10,830. And several potentially AI images made it into the top 300 of that. That's an insanely high number that makes me think that there were probably a lot more images like this that were actually submitted. But as you scroll down here and get down to the Eevees, you'll notice something a little bit strange in the naming here. And I don't think that the person who did this really thought it through, because the initials are going to be VK over these next 4 images. And we have Vigen K, I don't know how to pronounce that, Vigo K, which sounds like a nickname, and then Vigo Cachadorian, also starting with the name, and another one by Vigo Cachadorian. And if you scroll down to the Pikachus, there's another 2 images that look very similar by Vigen K or Vigen K and Vigen Cachadorian. Interesting. So this is very clearly the same person. I mean, I'm not a detective, but I don't think we need to be. This is the same art style and it's the same name, basically. It's very strange that these were actually able to make it through, and it makes me wonder how many they actually submitted with these different names. Let's take a closer look at some of these images and talk a little bit about why I think that they are potentially AI generated. On first glance, you're like, oh, this is adorable. This is an adorable Eevee artwork. What could possibly be wrong with this? It's got this beautiful sort of fisheye lens distortion effect right here, which is fantastic. It's a very high skill thing to be able to do as an artist. But then we have some very strange things going on here where we have this thin, inconsistent stroke weight here around the edges of Eevee. And then this would have to be the longest tailed Eevee I've ever seen on the face of the earth. I also have noticed in a lot of AI images that whenever there is water involved, that it goes excessive with the bubbles. So it'll have bubbles underwater and it'll have bubbles above water. The second really weird thing is going to be these love discs over here, which for some reason are facing downwards. And it makes sense that AI would be a little bit confused by this heart-shaped fish. Is this a conscious decision that a human made? It just doesn't seem like it would be. And then we have one of the most glaring issues with this image, and it's actually kind of funny because we're seeing this in multiple images as well, and that's this Vaporeon right here. This Vaporeon right here does not look right at all. It's literally not consistent with the art style of the entire rest of the image. It looks like somebody went in here and added it in sort of after the fact and did a really shoddy job of just like trying to make it match the art style, but it literally seems like it was drawn by a different person entirely. I mean, you can see just right next to each other here, the Eevee, and then you have the Vaporeon. And another thing, since we're looking really closely at this Eevee, that I have noticed with AI is if you have the style turned up too high, the style parameter, it starts to add detail where detail isn't in your reference images. So for example, this Eevee has a tremendous amount of tufts of hair, two different types of water splashes even that I'm seeing right now. We have these ones right here that are more like white water splashes, and then we have these giant above water bubbles that don't make any sense at all. But then we also have these weird sort of drawn lines here, and that's something that like Midjourney does quite a bit, where it will add detail where there's no detail necessary. It's probably trying to emulate the way that the light gets distorted as it comes through the surface of the water, which I should also point out doesn't make sense, because if you're looking at the image fully zoomed out, you'll notice that there are these light beams coming down from what I guess is the sun, but these seem like they were added in after the image was generated to like give it some more pop in some sort of way, because they don't break when they go through the water. Like they're not consistent with this light source, if that made sense. So this right here is not breaking up on the water surface to then create that. It's continuing through the water surface as if it's overlaid on top of the image. It's also a little bit strange that you're seeing these water distortions of light hit the bottom and the undersides of Eevee's paws and Eevee's body. It shouldn't be doing that. You should really only be seeing this come from on the top surface of things that are in the water. It looks wildly consistent with everything that I have seen in my experience AI generating images, including things like how there are line strokes, or there are strokes around all of the outer edges of Eevee, except for some places like right here where its face actually merges with the fur on its neck and it doesn't actually have a chin. And then we have this image right here, which is honestly, I can't believe made it this far. This is probably the most lame Eevee artwork that I've ever seen. I mean, just looking at it right now, I don't know if you guys can see it in good enough detail, but this thing has the exact same issues that we had with the other Eevee, where it has these lines that sort of fade in and out of fidelity. Like the way that this is so unbelievably overexposed doesn't make any sense why an artist would actually blow out the entire image in that way, to the point where it actually starts to wash out the coloring on the silhouette side of Eevee. If the light sources are all over here and that's what's hitting the top of Eevee's face, then this area right here should be much more in shadow. This seems almost like it came out a lot darker and then they brightened it a bunch. And then it also has this weird like noise reduction smoothness going on that I've seen really consistent with AI upscalers. And what ends up happening is like when you export images from something like Midjourney, you kind of get like a small thumbnail version of it, and then you have to continuously upscale it if you want it to get bigger and bigger. And when you upscale it, a lot of the time it adds in detail that wasn't there in the smaller version, and it could start to look a little bit muddy like this. It looks like something was done to it, and that's that noise reduction that happens as a result of upscaling it. And then we have this one right here, which is again the same exact art style that we've seen with the other ones, and that makes sense because it's coming from the same artist, quote unquote. But there's a lot of weird things going on with this one too. One, the Eevee doesn't even look like it's in this image. There's supposed to be a shallow depth of field here where you could see the foreground here is out of focus. The trees in the background are out of focus, but Eevee is crisp in focus, which should mean that there's a focal plane across right here where other items are also in focus. So that doesn't quite make any sense. Also, if you look at Eevee's feet, it's weird that basically its back legs are touching the front or the back of its front legs. And same thing here where it doesn't have a bottom to its mouth, its tongue and everything just kind of merges with its chin. These weird extra tufts of hair that are like asymmetrical, like another one right here, for example, or the fact that like these leaf petals right here, or flower petals, have outlines and these ones don't. Like one could argue that it's because these ones are on the same focal plane, but that's not consistent with the other elements in the image. And even if that was consistent, why is it given an outline on just this part of it right here? But then when it goes over Eevee's ear, it's almost like the AI knew that we're outlining this thing and then thought that this was part of the subject itself and then gave it the outline as well. So another consistent thing that you'll see anytime you put like vibrant, bright, vivid, anything like that in your prompts for AI, you'll start to see these little lens flares start to pop up just about everywhere. These little highlights that blow out and these little lens flares are absolutely everywhere in these images. Again, this is the other image that was uploaded by this same uploader potentially. This one has the exact same telltale things that like I said, with the over stylization, turning the style parameter way up too high. It started to do some funky things with Eevee's hair. It's got this weird sort of poof of hair on top of it that continues all the way down to the front of its face. It's got these extra tufts of hair all around the base of its ears. It has this area right here of the edge of the ear that cuts inward because probably because the AI couldn't tell like where the hair actually was. And I've seen this before with especially generating images of Pokemon. It will just start to add all of these like extra tufts of hair and extra spikes and hard edges and things like that. The more you crank up the style, and the more you crank up the style, the more you get things floating in the air like these water droplets and bubbles and flower petals and everything else all start to show up more and more and more. In this image, also you could see Eevee's paw sort of emerging out of the water. It doesn't quite make sense the way that it's like, it doesn't have any splashes on it or anything. You can't tell if it's above the water or under the water. Also, I'm pretty sure that it has 4 fingers in this image when it usually has 3 in the other images that we looked at already. The ear sort of does this wonky thing where it like goes up and then bends off to the side up here. In this image, what are we looking at here? Are we looking at a really close-up photo of Eevee? And if that's the case, the water that's on the same focal plane as it right here is touching the edge of this rock. So is this Vaporeon just like a quarter the size of this Eevee? It doesn't make any sense at all. Like the scale of this doesn't make any sense. The depth of field of this doesn't make any sense. We have, again, out of focus things in the foreground, out of focus things in the background. Perfectly sharp Vaporeon, which would suggest that it's basically in the same focal plane as the Eevee. If that's the case, why is it completely a different art style? Because this was probably added in after the fact. And it's, again, the second image that we're seeing now with Eevee and Vaporeon on the left. So it makes me think that these are images potentially from the exact same prompt or series of prompts that were entered in to Midjourney or one of those other platforms. And just going back to the list here, you can see this is the one that has like Vegan K right here. It's the Eevee and then the Vaporeon on the left. And then we have another image that's allegedly from a different person, Vigo Cachadorian. And this one, same thing, Eevee in water with Vaporeon on the left. There's no way that these were not part of the same chain of prompts. It even has the light beams going down across the top of it. It's basically the same thing. Like if this image right here had a Vaporeon on the left of it, then I would know for certain that these are all part of the same prompt. But I mean, that right there, this being 2 separate artist submissions, but having the exact same theme and the exact same art style with the exact same prompt information is pretty compelling when it comes to this being potentially AI generated imagery. Not just AI generated imagery, but AI generated imagery submitted by the same person under multiple names. I really hope they got these people's personal information. This person's actually held accountable if any of this is even true, because we're just speculating right now. But I'm now just noticing when we're going down to the peak, I was about to go onto the Pikachus right here, but this name right here is actually different from what we saw on the Eevees. So now we are talking about the same person having 1, 2, 3, 4 different aliases being used right now. That's absolutely ridiculous. Again, this is the exact same art style. It has the exact same type of flowers, the shallow depth of field, the foreground. This person literally, I'm willing to bet, took the exact same prompt that they used with the Eevee, unless this one came first and they did it in the reverse order, but the exact same prompt and just changed Eevee to Pikachu. And it was sitting in the water, splashing in the water with flowers, shallow depth of field, anime style, whatever. Right? They're using the exact same prompt information when they're putting this in here. And then this is what happened. And it doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you just look at Pikachu's like hands, for example. So right now, if you just look at its hands, okay, you have a little Pikachu hand over here with a little tiny thumb. That's fine. Okay, whatever. But then we get to this hand over here and you're like, what happened? Because this hand comes up and then you have fingers going in like every which way direction. They're kind of like gnarled. This one's going up, this one's going down and to the left, this one's going off to the side right there. And then we have this little squiggle line where it's almost like the AI could not figure out how to get the thumb sort of like in view, and it almost wanted to put it on the top of the thumb, on top of the hand right here. It may have even done that, and then the person who submitted it made that quick adjustment right there. Same thing right here with this having the mouth that kind of goes down into obscurity where it blends right in to here. And allegedly this is a different artist. And I think that's like proof positive that this is probably the same artist. We're also seeing these water bubbles, these underwater style bubbles above the water, which makes no sense. Okay, there's no splashes here that are big enough to indicate that there are water globules or whatever you want to call them launching up in the air like this. And even if they did, they would be linear, and water doesn't bead up and sit on a surface like this. That doesn't make any sense at all. I almost feel like the anime style that this rainwater on the surface was pulled in from was like kind of lewd, because this is not how water would be running down this Pikachu. This is a more viscous liquid. There's something really like off about this entire thing. It almost looks like this Pikachu is like made out of latex or something. There's no reason for the water to be running down it in the way that it is. Also, the stroke on the bottom of its like butt right here, where it's sitting on the water, I should point that out, on the water, very clearly not in the water. For some reason, it's literally just sitting above it, as if it was like drawn or corrected. Maybe there was something wrong down here. It's the thickest line on the entire Pikachu, I feel like, is right here. And that doesn't quite make sense, because this is right where the water should be hitting the edge of Pikachu, not Pikachu hitting the edge of the water. That's not how water works. It would be a water line against its body. And any artist capable of making something this complex would know all of the things that I'm pointing out. Like you would automatically know it. I'm sorry, I'm usually very positive, but this is like kind of has me fuming here, guys. As an art director, creative director, it's wild to me that if somebody passed this off as work to me on a team and said like, yeah, I did this, I would ask for the master file immediately. I'd be like, where's the PSD? Where's the Procreate file? I want to see some layers. I want to see I want to see a brush stroke history in this thing. Are there variations? I mean, look at the rain. Look at the rain right now. When's the last time you saw rain coming down at this angle, in a V shape over here as well, right? So we've got a 10-degree rain. We've got a 35-degree rain over here, okay? Then you have them coming down the opposite direction over here, and then over that way. This one's bending. None of this makes any sense. The reflection of the Pikachu looks kind of ridiculous. It almost looks like a Ditto smiling. It's a completely different mouth. If you look, like the mouth only has a single arch going across it, whereas this Pikachu has the little standard Pikachu mouth that kind of has like the little mouth cheeks that animals have. Also, the little dot right here for its nose is all the way off by its eye, as opposed to being above the mouth. And then you can also see that in the reflection, it's not reflecting any of the strokes that are on the outside of the Pikachu. And you're like, okay, that's fine. It's a reflection. Like maybe that's an artistic choice. But then why is it so predominant right here in the reflection of the foot that's like weirdly distorted and I think has extra toes added to it? Everything about this is just off, from the fact that it's sitting on top of the water, the fact that it's got a different Pikachu in the reflection. What even is this? Is this supposed to be like a berry in the water? Is this supposed to be like a rock? I don't know what it is, but it's glistening. Everything has these little starburst pattern lens flares. These water bubbles that are just floating around Pikachu are just ridiculous. And the fact that this is all consistent with what we saw with the Eevee. Then we have this other Pikachu right here, which at first, this one didn't catch my eye as much, because I think it's got this like Dragon Ball thing going on where it's just a lot of intensity. It looks like it's about to go Super Saiyan, right? But then you start to look a little bit closer at it, and you're like, wait a minute, where is this supposed to be? Obviously, it's supposed to be in some sort of a battle stadium, right? And then you have all these people, but they all are like doing the same thing. Like they have no faces. Their arms are all up like that, as if they're like maybe holding phones or something, but they're all like, their arms are longer than their bodies. You have stuff like this where it's like, is that supposed to be people? Like, I get the idea that you wouldn't be able to see them in detail, but you would be able to make out that these are people and not just like blobs. But then you get all the way up to the top of the image, and there's this weird stuff going on where you're like, isn't this supposed to be like a round stadium or an oval stadium? What's going on here with these lights? They come around here like this, they swoop, natural curve, swoop, and then there's this like bump and chunk right here. And then this top area here just looks like a bunch of scribble, as if the AI was just like, yeah, there's usually some details up above there, and we don't quite understand what they are or why they're there, so we'll just put some scribbles and smudges up there and try to make sense of it. And there's also just like a random guy's silhouette right here. It wasn't sure what this was, so it just kind of put a person up here. It's just kind of hiding. just like a mystery shadow person. Again, different artist name, same exact mouth, same styling, same like random lighter toned squiggles that we saw on the Eevee's face in the one where it was underwater. I think of all of them though, this is the one that would pass for me the most in terms of like, if it was just this image that they submitted, I don't think anybody would have really batted an eye at it. Because yes, there's some weird stuff going on. Maybe a couple people would have been suspicious. There's other artworks on here that could be suspicious as well. But the weird thing is that you can train AI to be really good and really convincing. You can get AI to make this image. You can get AI to make this image. It really depends on what type of input you're giving it as its reference images. And then once you're able to train it on something and you get it to make a really good Pikachu from several different angles, maybe you do a character sheet, you can ask it for a character sheet. And then once you find one that's consistent, then you can use that as your character reference to then add prompts to it. And then it will always consistently do that character reference. You know, it doesn't quite add up. Like these all feel like very, I want to say entry level prompting mistakes when you're first starting out and everything you type in there is just like shallow depth of field, vibrant, bright. And it takes all of the creative liberties and it just does that. And that's what AI does. Is you're basically giving it something and saying like, hey, I don't know how to make art or describe it, so I'm just going to give you a bunch of words that I like. And then AI just takes all of the creative liberties and says, oh, you're looking for something like this. And a lot of the time, the big appeal of AI is the fact that what it produces is very pretty. And for people who can't generate art of their own human, ability, then they just go, wow, that is incredible. I could never make anything like that. It must be good. And in reality, there's 100 issues. We went through so many different issues with each one of these images that are not even just indicators of AI. They're indicators of bad art form. It's not actually replacing good art with good art. It's replacing good art with an imitation of what it thinks is good art. And some people are doing that on purpose. They're just submitting their own artwork and saying, hey, learn this. This is my art style. And then now produce this thing that I'm going to describe in the style of me. And then it will consistently make, like if this is this person right here, if this Pikachu is their art style and they make like 10 of these things and then they say, hey, produce me like one of these on a beach in the style of however you say this person's name. I'm going to try and butcher it right now. It will give you an image that looks just like this artist made it of this Pokemon on a beach. And that's an example of somebody using AI somewhat ethically. If you're only training it on your own artwork and then you're having it produce artwork for you. But the other thing is that most of these platforms have a royalty attached to it, where if you actually print any of these things and earn any kind of money, like say a $5,000 grand prize, or it gets printed into the TCG and you get any kind of royalty on those cards, then a percentage of that has to go back to Midjourney or Leonardo.ai or DALL-E or whatever platform you're using. As a creative director, why I got involved in this is because this could replace my job in just a few years, the same way that it's replacing artists' jobs right now. So ultimately, our jobs will be replaced by an AI. But if you really think about it, they're not going to be replaced by an AI. They're going to have to be replaced by someone who knows how to use AI to do our jobs. And we might as well make that person us, right? I might as well be the person who knows how to use AI that can do my job. And then I get to keep my job. We have to evolve with the tools. There's no stopping these billionaires from making their billions and their trillions of dollars off of these new AI tools. Social media influencers, people who want to go viral on TikTok are going to choose the cheapest, fastest, easiest route to get generated artwork or templates or whatever they need as quickly as possible without having to pay somebody an extra fee or wait for a 2 to 3 day turnaround from somebody on Fiverr or Upwork. It's coming. You might as well just be the person who turns around the image in 1 hour by using AI, if that's what you're doing to make money and make a living. You know, if you're making art just for the sake of making art, make art, because we need more people who are making art. I mean, the way that I use it is basically I use it to generate concepts. Like I'm just like, oh, okay, so train it on Bidoof, and then go like, oh, show me Bidoof in like a number of different silly situations, right? And then it pumps out a bunch of different silly situations, and then you redraw one of those situations that made you smile. You're like, hey, I didn't think of that. You're just using it for concepting. You're just using it for inspiration, or you're using it for mood boards. And that's okay. It saves you the time of having to look up stuff on Pinterest and basically mimic something that somebody else already did, which is also just plagiarizing. And I know this is a Pokemon channel and I'm talking on and on and on about AI, but I think that this is a problem that we're really going to have to face if they're going to continue to do these illustration contests year over year. And one of the biggest issues of why this person could get away with all of this is that going through the contest rules, I didn't see anything in here about artificial intelligence, about Midjourney, about Dolly, about anything other than the very, very vague line of you have to have made this artwork yourself. And there's nothing definitive about me entering a prompt that I came up with and generating 4 different images in Midjourney, and then selecting one of those images and adding several prompts to it, making tweaks to it, and making selective changes and edits to parts of the image, and then AI upscaling it, spending 2 to 3 hours doing that to get just the image that I want, and then submitting that. There's no one who can sit there and tell me like legally that I didn't make that image, because the laws are just not there yet. The laws are not caught up with like the terminology and the jargon that they're going to use. The legalese is not there to really hold anybody accountable to say what is creation and what is, generation. I don't know. It's a pickle. I think the Pokemon company is going to have to amend their rulings here. Hopefully make changes to the list, requalify a couple of people who had submitted really great artworks, because there's some really incredible artworks in there. Oh, one last note before we head out. This is another reason why this is an issue, and this has to change right here, okay? For standard card illustrations, be 1106 by 696. Way too small. That's way, way, way too small. You could very easily use these image generators to generate something that's smaller than like a thumbnail nowadays. I mean, we're talking about with Retina displays, that's minuscule. This should be a much larger pixel canvas. They can increase their brush size the same way as they can increase their canvas size. Nothing's stopping anybody from submitting larger pieces of art. It must be in a digital form. This is the big issue right here. Either JPEG or PNG. Guys, what are you thinking? I don't know. You can't verify the validity of an image being real or not, or someone being the true owner of it without the working file. They should absolutely have to submit a PNG or a .procreate or what have you. Some sort of a working file with some sort of layer history in it. Something that shows that this artwork was created by this person, they own the master file, and they can see that the work has taken place here. And finally, these are the judges. Now, I don't know if these are the actual judges who went ahead and judged the first 10,800 whatever and knocked it down to 300, or if there was a first tier of sort of screeners who went in and got rid of the 10,000 math. I'm terrible at math, but I don't know if somebody went through and screened all of those and knocked it down to 300, and then these guys are going to be judging the 300. That I don't know for sure. And a lot of these people are art directors, senior art directors, illustrator judges themselves. I need to know who specifically approved what, when, and where, and whether or not any of these people have had any sort of training in terms of like how to identify AI generated artwork. These rules are outdated, and if they don't make changes to them now, it completely destroys the integrity of the illustration contest in perpetuity moving forward if they don't make changes to it. Ooh, that got me so heated. Make sure to like and subscribe if you appreciate the time that I put into this video. If you want to see some fun content, me pulling Moonbryons, shiny Charizards, Gengar VMAX, alternate arts, things like that, make sure to subscribe and join the Fang Gang. I'll catch you in the next one, and as always, happy haunting, Fang Gang. Peace.